Okay, it's recording.
All right. Hey.
So the question is, what does the solution of biomass briquettes really do for the world?
Well, I think biomass briquettes provide a substitute for traditional wood. If I look at the example of Afghanistan, for instance, which is a case study that NCIAA was helping with on a project. If you look at the case of Afghanistan, Kabul is a town that doesn't have any wood. So how do you stay warm during the winter time? What kind of fuel are you going to use when the economy is not strong? And so what's the replacement for wood? So what we have found out is that with the help of our colleagues in Sanukaji in Nepal, is that waste can be organic waste, certain type of organic waste can be used essentially for making fuel briquettes. So fuel briquettes essentially will not only provide a fuel, but it will also provide a cottage type of industry that can be used essentially to empower the local people.
That sounds great. And then specifically resources like Jatropha that have not yet been kind of exploited or used for biomass briquettes. Do you see that there is potential for these unexplored resources? Because some briquettes, like sawdust, has been used in a lot of ways. So how do fuels like Jatropha, what do they offer specifically?
Well, there are different. Let me rephrase it. There are different, obviously, types of briquettes that can be made from raw material. And what you need is often paper, sawdust, could be Jatropha, could be rice husk. So it's kind of finding for a given region of the world, for a given community, is first of all, what you need to do is to map what are the resources and identify what's the best composition for your briquettes. That in itself is a science. It's easy to put everything together, but you may not have a great material. So in the case of Jatropha, what we need to do is to identify Jatropha as a material. How does it look like when it's combined with other types of materials? How does it burn? What is the optimum composition of the briquette made out of Jatropha? So Jatropha plus something else. What is that something else? So I think as part of this research, we will need to spend some time identifying the Jatropha and how we combine it with other types of materials and the BTU that will come, the amount of BTUs that will come out of a briquette made out of Jatropha. So before we can actually start a business, a cottage industry, in that kind of environment, we need to identify the material and we need to identify the performance of the material. So I think that Jatropha represents a unique opportunity there to make briquettes in some regions in the world, like in Central America, where Jatropha grows everywhere. It's almost a weed. And so it's kind of, in one way, it's helping the environment of getting rid of the weed, and at the same time is using the weed and make fuel out of it. So it could be win-win. But I think time will tell as we explore the briquettes, as we make briquettes with different compositions, as we test those briquettes and burn them and see the performance of those briquettes with respect to wood.
And do you have any comments about how making briquettes out of biomass might be better than using that same biomass for, let's say, working back into the soil, since carbon is valuable for building life, but we're proposing to use it as a fuel? Do you have any comments on that?
And that's big.
It is.
I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to that. I think what we need to do is to identify the performance of the briquette compared to wood. It always comes up that a family would need so much wood for cooking and heating per day. So what we need to do is, can we find a substitute to that, cheaper than wood, and that will provide the same amount of energy as the wood would provide. So it always comes back to that basic question. People use wood. We don't want them to use wood. Can we replace wood by fuel briquettes? How many fuel briquettes do we need to have for a family of, say, 4 or 5 per day? What's the equivalent in terms of heat production for those briquettes, and then after that, once we have that equation, we can identify a business model. Right? So in the case of Afghanistan, I think that what we found out is that the business model of fuel briquettes in Kabul changed over a period of 2 years. It was really feasible 2 years ago, and now making briquettes in Kabul and selling them in Kabul is no longer profitable, but making the briquettes outside of Kabul and selling them in Kabul now is profitable. So as the market changes, as the economy changes, we also need to adjust essentially how those briquettes are made, where they are made, what's the composition, what's the raw material, and also it's a very dynamic process.
And lastly, any comment about the type of technology that's required for briquettes? Do you see it as advantageous that it can be used at low technology but also high technology?
What's interesting about briquettes is that they can be made with essentially raw material and with very simple technology. What you need is a press. And obviously the type of press and the capacity of the press will depend a great deal on how many briquettes you need to produce on a given day. But for a family of, say, 4 or 5, and if you look at what's needed for cooking and heating, a simple press made out of local materials can do the job very well. Making the press is in itself a cottage industry. So not only are we are essentially here creating several cottage industries. One is the briquettes, making the briquettes, selling the briquettes, that might be one of them. Another cottage industry that we found very profitable in Afghanistan is training the trainers, so training others to make briquettes. And the third one is the making of the presses, the equipment that is needed to make those briquettes. So there are 3 potential briquette business models that can be developed using raw material. So essentially we're using raw material that people don't want, and we are making a profit out of it. And that, to me, it's brilliant.
And a profit in different dimensions.
Absolutely a profit in different dimensions.
Yeah. And the final question. Actually, I just forgot. Oh, I had it. I forgot.
Okay, well.
But that's good.
Good.
I think that's a lot of good content.
It helps.
Yeah. And,
so you're planning to go to the NCIA conference?
I am. So Boston and Kristen were planning to go to present. They'd been invited to present, not as grantees, but just as people that had submitted in the past or submitted to NCIA. And so when they receive the grant now, they said that they can take one and fund one person to go.
Absolutely.
So I think I'll just tag along. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's perfect. So if you want to be part of that project, just look at